I beg to move the suspension of Standing Order 67.3 to facilitate the ongoing of the debate for the purpose of today, for the remainder of today's sitting.
The question is that Standing Order 67.3 be suspended for the remainder of the day sitting. All those honorable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it. Standing Order 67.3 is hereby suspended for the remainder of the day's sitting. Government business is the order of the day.
Yes, revert.
Prior to the suspension on Friday afternoon, this honorable chamber was in standing finance committee. We resume standing finance committee.
Yeah. At 27. I can just say head 27.
Mr. Chairman, this is now in standing finance committee. We resume with head 27, honorable member for St. James North.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning to all, and Minister, Member of Parliament for St. Michael, West Central. Welcome to your team as well here. And I wish first to commend your ministry, Minister, Honourable Minister, and to especially commend the initiative of a completely new fish market renovation of the Millie Eiffel Fish Market in Western St. James, one of the hearts of my constituency. In progress right now is the construction of a state-of-the-art fish market, and the fishing industry is, after tourism and perhaps construction, the main economic industry in St. James North. I believe the cost of it is, the overall cost is going to be $2.7 million. It is very much disabilities friendly. Of course, we would have made sure that it is. It has bathroom facilities, changing room facilities for persons with disabilities, disability access, and I believe, Minister, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, or your Port Authority CEO, that it is to be completed in June 2024, June this year, in other words, in 3 months' time. And I would like to know, on behalf of my constituents, whether we are still on course for that. Occasionally I visit myself, and I am assured that it is coming on well, but would just like to know if this deadline in the middle of the year, this year, is still on. My second comment before I ask the question is the need for enhanced community tourism. I know the Honourable Deputy Prime Minister, Leader of Government Business, referenced this issue on Friday. I certainly support it. St. James North, my constituency, is one of the main tourist belt constituencies. And I am fully aware of the importance of the tourist industry to my constituents. That was never demonstrated more than during COVID, when I estimate that 85% of the households in my constituency were affected through loss of employment during COVID because of the virtual shutting down of our tourism and hospitality and entertainment industries. But, Minister, I am of the view that enough tourist dollars that come into Barbados are not spent within the communities, or it doesn't reach our communities. I believe, quite honestly, that perhaps not enough foreign exchange from tourism comes into Barbados in the first place, because, as I understand it, still a lot of the tourists pay for their holidays overseas, and monies may only be transferred as needed to the hotels that are owned to a large degree by foreign interests, when they need, obviously, to pay salaries and to do maintenance, etc. So I'm one of the strong believers, and I would like to see more tourist dollars, more foreign exchange going down into my communities for the benefit of people. And I believe, certainly from my experience too as a tourist, and I've been to, 1/3 of the countries in the world, that there are many tourists who would like a more local experience, to go into the communities, the districts, see how people live daily, see how to play road tennis, to drink coconut water, cut the coconut water. And I'm here calling for more direct benefits to our communities.
Honourable Member, I'm calling for the direct benefit of you.
Of me asking a question. Yes, sir. With the thrust of our country and other CARICOM countries towards doing greater business with the African continent, Minister, what is the possibility of us having direct flights from Barbados to the African continent within the foreseeable future? Thank you for your indulgence, Honourable Chairman.
Thank you, Honourable Member, and thanks for the kind remarks on behalf of the Ministry's team. You are correct that the Millie Eiffel fish market is due for completion June of this year. I have been advised that construction is going well there, and I'm sure, since you visit the site very often, that you'll be very pleased with the construction to date. It is estimated to cost us $3 million, and we are still within that figure of $3 million. The important thing is that the build-out of the fish market will also have some kiosks at that location. And it's all part, and this is for the benefit not only of members of this honorable chamber, but for the benefit of the people of Barbados, that the works undertaken, this $3 million upgrade, which will be a new bill, frankly, is part of the port's corporate social responsibility program. That is an opportunity that the port gives back some of its profits to the community. You will also recall that the port would have completed a fire station at the Bridgetown port, not for the exclusive use of the port, but for the Bridgetown and its environs within a surrounding radius. So we have to, of course, thank the port for staying true to their corporate responsibility and assisting us in this build-out. In addition to that, honorable member, you're quite right. Community tourism is a feature of sustainable tourism. And for that reason, it is envisaged that the kiosk that we have there would be an opportunity to bring the community alive. Of course, you would have heard last Friday when we met here about initiatives to be undertaken, including allowing visitors to experience fish boning and the other characteristics of that sector. But it's also important for us to ensure that when we have new initiatives like the William Eiffel Fish Market, once completed, to create a wonderful opportunity where visitors and locals alike can go and have some entertainment and also eat some fresh fish, have it grilled or have it pan-fried, however they like it prepared. So I think that we are moving in the right direction. Of course, once the fish market is completed, it will be a wonderful opportunity for the BTMI to get in there as well as to assist and to encourage the communities, as I've indicated last Friday, to build out community tourism. With respect to, and I might also add, that is not only the kiosks that we are building at Weston in St. James, we are also going to be constructing kiosks at Pile Bay. And again, it has the same focus. It's not only building out a new facility for fisher folk and others who work in that area, but it's also about creating another visitor experience or a guest experience, as we refer to it, at Pile Bay. So we will have an extension of what you're realizing across Barbados in respect of kiosks. With respect to the question, not enough foreign exchange coming to Barbados, I perhaps might have a view, only because I've spent close to 30 years within the hospitality sector. But I do say that when there are business hotel companies, especially those who borrow from the banks or banking institutions or any other financial institution, they're usually covenants associated with loans that are given. And oftentimes a covenant would position the borrower to ensure that all currency is held in accounts in Barbados, whether it be a local denominated account or foreign exchange account. Obviously, hotels will have their operating expenses that they have to fund. But all I can say to that question is that as long as we are realizing growth, there are other opportunities and mechanisms, I'm sure, that the Ministry of Finance and Economic Affairs could also review in order to ascertain and to answer your question in more detail. But I can only tell you from my years within the industry what obtains within especially a publicly traded company. Thank you.
Minister, the issue of Africa, reaching out a bit more.
Thank you. In respect of airlift out of the African continent, we are working we've had a number of discussions with at least 3 entities with a view of building out airlift into Barbados. Those negotiations are ongoing. We are, and we firmly believe that there are points in Africa that could redound to our benefit, not only for long stay visitors, but also for the cruise passengers. And therefore, and I had discussions recently where I also indicated to cruise lines executives the opportunity where we can drive business from the African continent. It will be a very good and noble idea for visitors and residents who live in Africa to come to Barbados, take a stay, of course, and then cruise the Caribbean and give them the opportunity to experience it. But it is a work in progress, and I do not want to say much more, Honourable Member. You know my style. Once we have it in the bag and it's all completed, then we'll make an announcement. But I'll say this, we have to have a sustainable platform in order to continuously drive business from the African continent, and that is what we're doing now. At the appropriate time, the BTMI will be making an announcement with respect to an officer that we would like to place in that market, because it's important that we do so in order to have a person on the ground coordinating and driving the behind the gateway marketing, because if we're going to have a flight coming out of Africa, we have to be in a position to sustain it, and that's very important. It would also create an opportunity if we can get an airline or airlines out of Africa for the connectivity onwards, for example, connectivity onto the United States or the UK. And it would certainly reduce the travel time associated if, for example, any member of this chamber or any member of the public would wish to go to Africa, they would have to go up to United Kingdom, which is approximately 8 hours, and then they will have to go down if they're going to Accra, if they're going to Botswana, if they're going to South Africa. And you could well imagine, depending on the point, you can probably move from 6 hours maybe to 10 hours out of London. So we believe it is also central to what we are building out in Barbados, a hub, not only a hub for the Eastern Caribbean, but a hub for the African continent into Barbados. It also is a wonderful opportunity for us to drive cargo trade from Africa to Barbados. So if we can have the passenger and passenger load factor at a very good rate, and on top of that, if we can have the belly, as they refer to, of the aircraft with cargo, is going both ways, I believe it would be a win-win situation for Barbados. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. My second intervention relates to the issue of influencers, using influencers as a marketing tool to bring tourists to Barbados. People have asked me recently if we really believe that we are getting good returns on this. I don't know what are the terms of reference for them, but you see on social media, for example, during crop over, influence is being utilized to try to market Barbados. Could you, through this parliament, sir, tell Barbadians what really this is about?
Thank you, Honourable Member, of course. Let me hasten to say that not all influencers who come to Barbados that we are paying for, because I know that there's a myth out there that once you see all the influencers out there and they're posting, that somehow the BTMI is footing the bill. I can tell you, including a number of celebrities who were on the island, the BTMI did not pay any monies to them. They came to Barbados, loved Barbados, I would say, enjoyed it, and they did a number of social media postings to the benefit of Barbados, including the famous DJ who came here over the holiday festive period. When we have familiarization trips to Barbados, commonly known as FAM trips, we always include, along with the media contingent, a number of influencers, media specialists, and we are very selective in how we go about with our familiarization visits. Those included on the team would be not only travel agents, travel salespersons or travel counselors from within the United Kingdom market. Depending on the market we are focusing on, we bring them here. And we also bring travel writers, because the benefit of having travel writers would be to expose Barbados as a destination within their publications, for which we can't pay. The other significant fact is that when we have influencers, and the influencers must be dedicated to certain target groups, it also helps us to get the message and to brand Barbados and to put brand Barbados in the marketplace. The only cost to us when they come here is if we have to accommodate them and if we have to provide meals for them. And we do that within a very short window. But believe you me, when I tell you as an industry veteran or former executive, it is worth it. Hotels also do it. They have familiarization visits to Barbados, and they do the same thing. So we're going to continue to focus on not only influencers, but other media personnel, and of course, the people who make the difference and sell Destination Barbados, the people who work in tour operator-based companies and those who work in travel agent online, and those who have the physical presence. So we will continue to do so, but I thought it best to let you know that not every influencer who comes to Barbados, and certainly the last set that you would have seen posted, and I really want to take this opportunity as well to thank them, because what they did for Barbados, like I said earlier, we can afford to pay for it within the realities of our budget. So big thank you to them. I would like many more to come to Barbados, enjoy Barbados, and continue to post all the positives that they posted about Barbados online, because it, once again, helps us to support. I mean, when you think about what we're doing, we're building out airlift capacity. And once we have airlift capacity into Barbados, it is also important that we do whatever we have to do behind the marketing gateway. And therefore, the influencers would be best positioned to help us. And therefore, we welcome them. And like I said, I would like even more to come to Barbados. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarification, Honourable Minister. And Honourable Chairman, my final intervention relates to people with disabilities and tourism. Honourable Minister, you would recall last year during estimates, I raised issues as to the need for employment of more persons with disabilities within the tourist industry, hospitality industry, entertainment industry, and the need for us to become, or for our tourist product, for which you're responsible, to be more disabilities friendly, so that we can attract more people with disabilities, international travelers, of which there are many, and of which they spend to a significant degree a lot of foreign exchange, because a lot of these individuals have acquired a disability through some negligence, act of negligence, whether road traffic accident, medical, whatever, and get large personal injuries claims. And if, sir, you can give a report on what progress may have been made in this regard since last year when we discussed this issue during the estimates debate.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I would also like to remind you that a lot of the major brands that we have in Barbados, they have key brand requirements, and including those brand requirements, the company must have disability-friendly environment, and therefore a lot of those who don't have it, obviously in the numbers that we're looking for, obviously I am aware that they're making arrangements to do so. And like I said, these are major brands that must make provision because it's all part of their operating requirements. With respect to what we've done, I will ask Nicole Aline, who heads up the National Tourism Program, to respond to you. And I would also ask the head of the Product Quality Division, Lana Harewood, sorry, I was trying to, apologies, Lana Harewood, to also give you an update, because we have a bill which is pending the tourist accommodation bill. And in that bill, specific reference was made to the very points that you raised. I will ask first Nicole Aline to speak, who can speak to a lot of the improvements in respect of sidewalks and everything that the Senior Minister responsible for infrastructure is acutely aware of and who perhaps will help us, as well as Lana Hayward, who will address the matter. Ms. Nicole Aline.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Thank you, Minister. Good morning again, honorable members of the House. My name is Nicole Aline, and I am the project coordinator for the National Tourism Program. To your question, Member of Parliament, under the National Tourism Program, we have an initiative called the Tourist Urban Route, which looks at showcasing our World Heritage property. And we made a direct intervention in ensuring that it is accessible by members of the disabled community, persons with disabilities. When we were designing that particular product, we had members of the Barbados Council for the Disabled accompany us on a walkthrough to show us what were the issues that needed to be addressed to ensure that they will also be able to participate in that particular product once it was developed. And we did that for that particular product. We did it as well for the Oystins product, which is also being developed under the National Tourism Program. And more recently, when we held the town hall meeting that discussed the work we're doing at the museum, coming out of that meeting, we had a separate discussion with the Barbados Council for the Disabled to make sure that the requirements and the areas that they're required to be addressed were part and parcel of the design of that facility before we move forward to the tender stage, which is where we are right now. So we have made direct interventions to ensure that that National Tourism Program takes account of the community of persons with disabilities. And it is also in due recognition, I might add, if I can take this opportunity to say that, of the fact that our returning visitors are of the silver market, and they also have mobility issues. And as we go forward, when we had a discussion last Friday, we discussed additional attractions coming online and what we were doing. And we certainly need to make sure that those attractions are in recognition of the demographic that that are coming to Barbados and the issues they're facing, and to make sure that they can participate in our product. So it is also as a result of the demographic that is coming to visit here in Barbados. So those are some of the initiatives, Member of Parliament, that we have taken, some of the steps we've taken to ensure that we accommodate all persons, and we truly are developing an all-inclusive tourism product. Thank you.
I'll ask Lana Hayward to speak to the matter as well.
Good morning, Chair and honorable members of the House. My name, Lana Hayward, Manager, Product Quality, Barbados Tourism Product Authority. Yes, to answer your question, last year we would have indicated the new tourist accommodation bill will be all-inclusive to all persons. That bill right now is with the Chief Parliamentary Council, and it does take into account 20 designators, which the hoteliers can apply for. These designators will highlight prominent features of the establishment. And one of the designators is universal access. And within the bill, the universal access will take into account the international universal access criteria, as well as our national universal access criteria. So the tourism accommodation providers can go internationally or nationally for this designator. So we have taken this very seriously, and we are also encouraging regular tourist accommodation providers right now, as we do our inspections, to consider adapting their properties to incorporate differently able persons on every regard. Thank you.
And honorable member, just to your point, I will ask the chair of the BTMI to just come in on the issue of additional activities for the African market. Chair? Ms. Shelley Williams.
Thank you, Minister. Good morning, Chair, and good morning, honorable members. My name is Shelley Williams, the Chair of the Barbados Tourism Marketing, Inc. We are very engaged when it comes to Africa. For the first time this year, we will be attending the WTM Africa that's going to be held in South Africa in April. Traditionally, we go to WTM in London, we go to it in Brazil for LATAM to build out the Latin American market. But now for the first time this year, we will be going to South Africa to attend the World Travel Market there. With this in mind, we need to be able to meet the travel partners there who is in the travel business. It is new market for us. So it's important to have legitimate, meet the legitimate partners in travel and trade, as well as talk to other airlines. We have been talking to some airlines at present, but we felt the need to attend their travel trade and establish one like WTM to make sure that we are speaking to the right persons and we have the right partners to build out that market. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Chairman.
Thank you, Honourable Member. Honourable Member for Christchurch South.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman of Committees, and good morning. Good morning, Minister and your team. Perhaps we should all feel some pleasure that by now we have established that this is an exercise in which government agrees to account for all of its activities, certainly to this Parliament. And since this is broadcast to the public, it should feel that sense of accountability to the public as well. And if that is the intent and if that is the spirit in which we proceed, please permit me to ask the following questions so that the public and this Parliament may be well informed as to the activities of government. I want to focus on the question of investment, tourism investment, and more particularly on this occasion, investment into hotel development. Now, I know you're aware, Honourable Member, that when the government took office, there was a stated plan to develop that area from Needham's, I think at the time it was said, down to Pelican. That's close to the Bridgetown port. And what I will do now, I will name some of the projects along that corridor which were meant to receive attention in terms of hotel development, and ask you, Minister, to issue a report card to this Parliament and to the people of Barbados as to that proposal so well articulated at the time. Now, this proposal began at Needham's. That is the area for the sake of Barbadians in the immediate area of the Hilton, the well-known Hilton Hotel. I believe I am obligated to state a professional interest, a private professional interest in that area of Needham's, where Mobile used to be located. As far as I'm aware, it is still unresolved, and hopefully government will find it possible to resolve that matter soon, since the matter needs to be resolved if there's to be any physical tourism hotel development in that area. So I do declare that interest, that private professional interest. And so I will name those areas that stretch from the Hilton, Needham's area down to the Bridgetown Port and give you, Minister, the opportunity to issue that report card to the people of Barbados. So there's Needham's, the former Mobile refinery site. Then we come down Bay Street. As we know, there has been much publicity given to the matter of Savvy. This is opposite, I think, Gemmett's Lane. I think the people of Barbados, who seem well invested, not financially, but well invested in visitations to that area has been over the years a very popular destination for the residents of Bridgetown. And therefore, the people of Barbados would want to know what is government's proposal in relation not to disclose the arrangements between the owner of that property and government, not to disclose that, but to give an overview to the public of Barbados as to what is happening there. The other area, and we're coming down Bay Street, the other area is Hyatt. Now, Barbadians have observed this with an intense interest. And more than once, more than twice, and at least 3 times, separate ministers have told the public of Barbados that the Hyatt project will begin, and I quote, shortly. Now, again, the people of Barbados have an economic interest because that Hyatt property, and we shouldn't be shy about saying this, that Hyatt property includes public property. Certainly the area, I think, where the Harbor Police Station used to be located, and since government proceeded to invoke the Compulsory Land Acquisition Act to acquire private property that I suppose would be considered public property, so that the public must feel invested in this issue of Hyatt. What is going on? When will it happen? Have we used Parliament to acquire private lands for a public purpose? It must be stated. And yet that public purpose has not come to fruition many months, years after. So please place that within the report card for the sake of the public. Then we come to the Pierhead. Again, these are not questions intended to meet. These are not hostile questions. These are questions being asked on behalf of a public that wishes to know how government is spending government's money, a public that wants to know the direction in which this country's physical development plan is going insofar as it relates to tourism, insofar as it relates to hotel development, so that the Pierhead, whatever is the state of the work, proposed or active or actual, please tell the public what is happening there. Please tell the public if there are any plans to utilize the boardwalk area, since certainly the boardwalk area, a beautifully developed area in Bridgetown, except that it only accommodates pedestrians traveling from the lower side of Bridgetown to the upper side of Bridgetown. So we'd want to know if government has some active plan to integrate that beautiful boardwalk project into Bridgetown proper, Broad Street, Swan Street, and so on, but more particularly the backside, no offense meant, the backside of the buildings that constitute Broad Street. Some time ago, I think the Honourable Member for Christchurch West came to this Parliament, and the Treasury building was dealt with as a building intended for some use. I think the public, not a lot appears to have happened, not administratively, but actively in relation to that Treasury building. Is it housing? Is it tourism? Is it housing for the sake of tourism? What is happening there? The public would certainly want to know, will it degenerate further than it is now while it remains inactive? So what is happening there? The stretch along Hink Street, that is worrying. That is worrying. And we speak as patriotic Barbadians that these old buildings, I believe still privately owned, seem not to be as well utilized as they could be. There seems to be a fairly conspicuous inactivity along that stretch, apart from a few shops and so on. We know what COVID did to work, the whole concept of work, and the disappearance of the physical office. And that is an area with so many buildings which may become a casualty of the COVID revolution in relation to the non-use of buildings. Tourism potential, perhaps. Please place that among the report card. And I don't know what would happen at Princess Alice. It's never been a project that one could have described as being successful.
Leader of the opposition,
Yes, please. Yes, Your Honor. So that, Honourable Member, please, if you follow, and I know you follow my question, could you give this Parliament and Barbados a report, including those individual projects that I've referred to? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honourable Member. I hope you don't cause me to get into trouble, because when I last checked, investments was not part of my portfolio. Mm-hmm. So I have to be very careful and be guided.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
But I believe, since you are part of the opposition, and to avoid anybody suggesting that I am perhaps running from the question or not prepared to answer, let me give you my take of it. Remembering, though, that I am not responsible for tourism investments.
Yes, well, except, Minister, that they may not be coming. So you have a dual capacity. You are a minister and you're a member of the collective body called Cabinet.
And that's why I no issue with that, and I'm prepared to give you my view on it.
I appreciate it.
But I also believe that you should not cross ministerial lines.
Yes.
In the form of good governance.
Yes.
And you, as a lawyer, you know better than I do about governance.
And I appreciate your dilemma.
Yes.
But I also appreciate your generosity.
Yes, but I'll answer you.
Thank you very much.
First with Hilton to Bridgetown Port. And I'm glad you mentioned Hilton, because Hilton, as you know, is one of our national assets. It has given us, in my judgment, a very strong and bright and rewarding future after a period of less than spectacular performance under the previous administration. By that I mean the earning potential was still below what an owner would have expected as a return on the investment. But through a refocus and more strategic approach to the details of the profit and loss statement, which I mandated as minister coming in, the financial fortunes of that entity has been turned around. I will also very shortly ask the financial controller or finance director of the Hilton to speak to you and to give you additional details on that matter. Suffice to say that there's also an ongoing hotel refurbishment plan, which is obviously meant to ensure the physical and the aesthetic conditions of the Hilton Barbados property remain very appealing to our locals, and to our visitors alike, who from time to time obviously occupy the hotel. I will pause and I'll come back down as you've listed them, but I will ask the Finance Director, Mr. Nigel Whitehall, Nigel Hall, to give you a cursory overview of the financial success of the Barbados Hilton. Mr. Hall.
Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Mr. Chairman, members of Parliament, Mr. Leader of Opposition, Nigel Hall, Financial Controller, Needham's Point Holdings. I think we are proud to report that, especially since the impact of COVID, we have seen significant improvement in the returns and the operations of the Barbados Hilton, and certainly the holding company for the Hilton Needham's Point Holdings. Coming out of the COVID pandemic, we witnessed a significant fall off in business activity, as all the country would recognize during that period of time. Since that time, we've seen significant growth. We've been talking about recovery. I believe that what we have witnessed is a significant recovery from the COVID period. Although we were never fully shut down at that point in time, we have seen occupancies rise from the 30s, 40s, the 70s, and now we are projecting that they will fall just short of the 80s as an average year-round occupancy for the property. In addition to that, the government earns from the Hilton arrangement a return they call the owner's return. And that return is basically net profit that we get from the operations of the hotel. Coming out of COVID, we were witnessing no returns, because you would understand that with COVID and reduced revenues that we were not profitable at that point in time. But since that time, we've seen a return that has grown to what we were achieving before 2019 when the pandemic started. So in just 2 short years, 3 years, I would say, we've seen a complete recovery and a growth of that return to exceed what it was before the pandemic started. Additionally, as a company that owns the property and manages it, we've seen also a significant turnaround in the fortunes. So we were able to move from a loss during COVID, and now we have been able to receive a profit in excess of $9 million for 2023, and it's projected that as we go into the next financial year, that profit will grow to $10 million and possibly exceeding. So I think it paints a picture that shows that the Hilton operation and Needham's Point Holdings has been a success story for the government of Barbados. We were able to maintain employment levels during that period. So not only were we financially profitable, but we were able also to maintain employment for the many workers who fortunate enough to be employed at that location. So I think that gives a short summary of how we've been able to perform.
And thank you very much for that, Mr. Hall. And the picture that obviously we have to paint is that, one, we've benefited from increased occupancy. And once you benefit from increased occupancy, once you have the right rates, obviously your RevPAR would have increased. And as Mr. Hall indicated, the profit is on track, it's going in the right direction, and we believe that over time we will begin to see additional benefits. I must also let you know, Honourable Member, that there's currently being undertaken a feasibility study. And the objective of that study is to see how best we can expand the room inventory on that site, the existing Hilton site. And the view is that we have economic lands on the beach, and therefore it is currently reserved as a car park. How best can we build out additional room inventory on that site without displacing the car park, but looking at the view? You can have a car park below ground if necessary, but looking to see how best we can maximize. Because the challenge for Hilton, as we bring additional airlift into Barbados, is going to be issue where persons will want to be accommodated, including crew, because a lot of the US-based hotels have a requirement for crew operations there. So the feasibility, I will ask Mr. Hall just speak very quickly, very briefly to the feasibility study, but the feasibility study will also dictate what I announced last year in the estimates, that we are seeking to build out opportunities under a joint venture arrangement with partners. Because let us be very clear, the Hilton is owned by the people of Barbados, and the Hilton will remain owned by the people of Barbados. But what we're looking to see is how best we can enter joint venture arrangements without Hilton having to incur, Needham's Point as the owner, having to incur even more debt. Because as you would appreciate, if you can get equity, it reduces obviously your interest expense and the principal, and it improves your EBITDA performance, earnings before tax, interest and depreciation. So that's what we're focusing. So just very briefly, Mr. Hall, if you can touch on the feasibility plan, please.
Yes, Minister. As the Minister rightly said, the board of Needham's Point commissioned a feasibility study to see if it would be financially, if it would make sense to expand the operations of the hotel on the grounds currently owned by the property. And we were able to get a preliminary report on that study, and it has indicated that if we were to expand the number of rooms on that location, that it would be a very successful venture, very profitable venture. So that has given us the green light now to explore options in further development on that location. Of course, that's just a preliminary study. It has to be developed further. The board will have to look further at the type of room, the number of rooms, those types of considerations. But that report has given the green light because it shows that it would be a very profitable and desirable outcome, even in the face of upcoming competition in the area and further afield across the island. So that is now being given further consideration, and I believe that more information will come on that as development continues.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hall. I'm just moving on to your question, Honourable Leader of the Opposition. In respect of the Needham's Point, the existing site there where you the former mobile site, or the site that houses the mobile refinery, I am aware that the senior minister and minister responsible for infrastructure is working very closely with the Needham's Point holding company in order to clean up the site and to ensure that once the site is cleaned up, we can create additional investment opportunities. There's also additional lands there. And again, those lands are earmarked for part of it, which is held by a private owner. And we are seeking to see how best we can develop another property, not by central government, but obviously on lands there that in part owned by a private owner, and also those in conjunction with lands currently owned by the government of Barbados. As we move to Savvy on the beach in Bay Street, I do not believe I have a right to speak to that. I believe it's before the law courts, and you as a lawyer will guide me if you wish, that I should not, I believe it's sub judice, the matter is sub judice, I believe that's the legal term they use, and therefore I would reserve, I prefer not to speak to that matter.
Appreciate it.
In respect of the Hyatt lands there, of course, there is an investment plan that should be ready to ensure that the build of that facility, which is really needed in Bridgetown, to help give Bridgetown additional lift. I would defer to the minister responsible for infrastructure. But what I would, senior minister responsible for infrastructure.
Which minister is that, please?
The-
Responsible for infrastructure?
For infrastructure.
Who is that? Please?
The Honourable Member for Christchurch West, please.
Thank you very much.
But I'm sure that he's more than capable to give you an answer on that matter. But the issue is that, like you know, when you have to conclude contractual relationships and obligations, they do take some time. And oftentimes, you know, you have to ensure that the conveyance is done. You have to ensure that you have the bank financing in place. You have to make sure that all the equity partners are aligned. And I believe those things are being worked on. In respect of the Pierhead project, that is a private project. I can't comment any further on that, except to say that there are plans that are well advanced. They are properly designed. The owner of the real estate is known to Barbados, and of course, will be, based on what plans have been shared, that will become a spectacular project. You will note, for example, that a lot of the boating community would have been relocated from that area to the opposite side of the Coronage to facilitate the engineering works that are ongoing. So suffice to say that there is, of course, engineering works and other works that are ongoing in order to realize that project, which I know will come through. In respect of the Treasury building, Barbados, as you would have heard in this parliament, would have had an urban renewal program. We would have discussed it in here under the Barbados Labour Party. And the urban renewal program, for which the Barbados Labour Party has been known for over the years, as well as investments and development within the hotel sector. Those plans are ongoing with a view to see how best, when we re-engineer urban areas in Bridgetown, we'll be able to project a wonderful fit. You can see, for example, what we've done in respect of National Hero Square Park and other projects in order to lift Bridgetown up. In respect of Hink Street, a lot of that land, if not all, is owned by private holders. I do agree with you that it needs a lift. I do not believe that it should be boarded up. And therefore, obviously through moral suasion, we would have to encourage the owners of private property in that general vicinity to build out additional or to refurbish if they wish to. But I'm also aware that there are interests in respect of the building on Hink Street and what can be done to build out iconic Bridgetown. In respect of Princess Alice Highway, a lot of that land going, if you're leaving Bridgetown on the left, heading to the Bridgetown port, short of the fish market, a lot of that, and the abattoir, where BADMC is located, and the fisheries complex, you know, it's private land. But what I can tell you, on the area near the heliport, because we had to relocate a number of the members of the boating community from that area to bring them away from that area to facilitate the construction that will start there. The port undertook an expansion program. I'll let the Chief Executive Officer of the port, Mr. Jarmary, speak to that. And it's about protecting the boating community to ensure that they have the relevant berths that they can facilitate. And obviously, it's a critical part of our tourism infrastructure below and spend, and therefore we're doing what we have to do to protect it. Obviously, the window to the sea, as we often refer to open lands, famously known as Travis Way, remain an ideal spot for visitors when they come to Barbados to take pictures. You would have seen what the National Conservation Commission continues to do there as part of the National Tourism Program and other works that we have planned there for other facilities to be built out. Not to obstruct the view, Honourable Member, but to ensure that we have facilities, especially when locals and visitors alike go to visit that area. As you go into the Bridgetown port, you would have heard earlier, a lot of the works that we're undertaking at the port in respect of berth 6, they build out there to have additional berth for cargo, and when it's not in use for cargo, to have additional facilities for the cruise ships that we're bringing here in our huge numbers. So along that way, we can see, obviously, Pelican, you would have seen it has been repainted. You still have a lot of locals and tourists in that area. You have the art gallery, you have the handicraft, you have other, including restaurants and so on, serving local dishes. So we will continue to build that out, and I will ask the CEO of the port just briefly to speak to the issue in respect of the boating community not too far from where the helipad is located. Mr. Jean-Marie.
Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. My name is David Jean-Marie, Chief Executive of Barbados Port. As Minister indicated, we have facilitated the Pierhead Development Project by working with our tenants, the boaters there, the monohull and the catamarans and the large party boats, and relocated them away from that location, which is part of the project. The monohulls, the smaller yachts, have been repositioned to the inner careenage fully. We have employed additional persons to lift the bridge so as not to inconvenience the members who need to go out. At the early times, we've had 1 or 2 instances where there may have been delays, but for the most part, it has worked quite well. We have also improved the facilities to the north of the careenage for the catamarans. We've spent about $1.2 million in ensuring that the catamarans can moor alongside with the various facilities for water, electricity, and parking for the guests drop-off. With respect to the party boats, we've built out the location south of the fish market, adjacent to the heliport area for those large party boats at another cost of about $1.3 million. So we paid substantial sums, approximately $2.5 million, to reposition the various boats that are adjacent to the Pierhead location in order to facilitate that project, but ensuring that those tenants are comfortable.
And one other point, and related to hotel investments, and since you're on that topic, I would want to say to you and to other honorable members of this House that when we were here on the last occasion in the chamber, in the Standing Finance Committee, I had made a commitment to our divestment program in respect of Hotel and Resorts Limited. Obviously, I gave the assurance on that occasion that that was part of our remit, because we have to ensure that we have hotels in Barbados that are profitable and productive, and those that are very valuable assets to the Barbados taxpayer and to the economy. And I am pleased to inform that of certain very encouraging developments in respect of the respective properties owned by Hotel and Resorts Limited. In the case of the Savannah Hotel, the board of directors, pursuant to our mandate, they have agreed to sell the property to the highest bidder. There was obviously a process that they have followed, and that will be disposed of. Of course, at the appropriate time, I will give the country a fuller update in respect to who won the bid and how much they're going to pay for the property in respect of full disclosure. Of course, in transactions like these, you would respect investor confidence to the point, but I give the House the assurance that we will be communicating via the appropriate media or divestment of that particular project. The other issue that I would like to draw to your attention to is the second property within the Hotel and Resorts Limited portfolio, Blue Horizon. As I speak, there are requests for proposals being submitted. Once those requests are evaluated by the board, and the board submits a recommendation to the ministry, obviously that will be given due consideration. I thought I would use this opportunity, honorable member, to give you an update in respect of what we have planned. It is not a secret because I said it on the floor, as I indicated last time we were here in the Standing Finance Committee, that we were going to divest. I am pleased to report that we've accomplished 50% of that mission, and the remaining 50 shall be completed, I dare say, within a month, month and a half, once the bids have been properly evaluated and the recommendations submitted to the ministry. I want to go back to the Chief Executive Officer of the port. I would like him to elaborate on the shadow draft facility and the shadow draft project being currently undertaken at the Bridgetown Port. Mr. Jarmy.
Thank you, Minister. When we reported here last, we said that the shallow draft project was 50% completed. It is approximately 95% now. This project will see an expansion in the availability of berths for pleasure craft, additional 50, including 10 for large vessels, 60 feet long by 20 feet wide. We are also, this project should be completed by May, June this year. There is also a mini mart, which is substantially completed, as well as fishing facilities for those persons who play their trade at the sand pit. I should mention the berthing fees. This project was a $40 million project. It has provided significant enhancements, including wave attenuation structures to deal with the waves that come into that during the north swells and so on that create problems in that area. That was a substantial cost. We've also relocated the facilities for the inter-island schooners that play their trade from St. Vincent and St. Lucia every week, bringing fruit and vegetables. There was, you may recall, a serious accident in the area where one lost control a couple of years ago, smashed into a catamaran and caused substantial damage. We've relocated that facility to the outside of that area so that we improve the safety of the operations inside of the shallow draft area. As a result, we've had to adjust fees, and we are having ongoing conversations with the tenants. We are trying to bring them in line with what is happening internationally and in the Caribbean, structure of the tariffs, where we were charged by lengths and so on, rather than what we do currently. It is obviously an increase compared to what was being paid before. We've offered the existing tenants a 25% discount for the first year, followed by a 10% discount for the following year. We are still having the conversation, as it is indeed a bit of an increase compared to previous years, but we have to move to recover some of the investment in a reasonable manner.
Thank you for that, and I also give the pleasure craft operators the assurance that I will also be engaging them to ensure that we see a greater opportunity for us to complete it. But one thing I would like to suggest and to make the point here, the whole issue, because there are a number of small business persons who are involved in pleasure craft operations, and I want to give, who are called, the so-called small man. But these entrepreneurs are being given an opportunity at the port. And we are going to continue to create increase and certainly stronger linkages regarding the cruise ships for the taxi operators, for the pleasure craft, for them to get more business, for the local farmers and other providers of goods and services. So the whole issue of, as I said last Friday, I want to see now a pouring down, not a trickling down, a pouring down of benefits and additional business for what we call in Barbados, so-called small man. And we're going to work to accomplish that. And therefore, it is critical that we continue to listen and we continue to improve the operations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister, for your sobriety, calm, and maturity. I commend you for your approach to answering questions. And I feel certain that the Honourable Member for Christchurch West will at some opportune time speak where you were silent, certainly in relation to Hayat. That is a project that holds the curiosity of Barbadians. So at some point, I know the member for Christchurch West is equal in sobriety, calm, and maturity, and that he will deal with that. I had thought to defer this question, but I will do now. Another member went to the issue of social media. And Minister, I want to say to you that there are at least 2 videos, I've seen 2 of them, on social media. And they speak very grandly as to these projects that the videos say either are ongoing in Barbados or pending in Barbados. Certainly within your portfolio, one speaks of multi-millions of dollars to be spent on a railway from the port, from the seaport to the airport. And quite appropriately, your good colleague from Christchurch West erupts into laughter. His laughter may be based on his own personal knowledge as to the veracity of these videos. But I may say to you that people are curious. As Barbadians, we are curious from whence have come these ideas and to where do these ideas go. My simple question is this: is government aware that these videos exist, speaking for and on behalf and in the name of government? And if government is so aware, is government responsible in some way? And if government has no association with the videos, are you, Minister, in your calm, sober, and mature way, prepared to disavow these videos that have captured the attention of Barbadians and captured the attention with great curiosity residing in our bosoms at this point? What is this about, Minister?
Honourable, I don't know the video to which you refer. I don't know of it. And
You may be traveling too much.
And I travel often as I should in the interest of Barbados. And as you quite rightly would have heard in this chamber, if you don't go to destination, you won't be able to get an additional 65,000 seats. I might add, perhaps this morning, and perhaps this morning I should also tell...
Seats or passengers?
Sorry?
Seats or passengers?
We're bringing the aircraft capacity here.
Oh, I see.
Once we get the capacity here, then we will convert. Of course, we will convert them to passengers. But suffice to say, the fact that the airlines have the confidence to put as many aircraft and to put as much airlift as they've done on the route tells us, one, that there's demand, strong demand for Barbados coming out to the United States and other markets, and in particular that they see opportunity for them to sell. I mean, an airline will not put an aircraft on a destination or a route if they believe they're going to lose money, and certainly they will not lose money on the route. The other thing which I wish to share with you is that United Airlines commencing this Thursday, coming out of Newark, New Jersey airport, we will have additional seats coming in from that sector, that airport. United will be providing a daily service from this Thursday, March the 7th, until May the 1st. That will bring to Barbados an additional 9,845 seats into Barbados, seating capacity. Of course, we will have to, you can only analyze the load factor once the plane touches down in Barbados. But based on what they have done, once again, is a signal, the confidence that the reports in Barbados, the strong demand that they're seeing. You recall that this United Airlines flight of Newark, New Jersey, only came here once a week. But between March 7th and May 1 of this year, there will be a daily service, like I said, totaling 9,845 seats. I should also let you know that the JetBlue service out of Boston will be moving, we're moving to a twice-weekly service. This represents a 50% improvement on what they're offering out to the Boston region. So effectively what I'm saying, Honourable Member, is that in this year, And going into, yes, continuing to the winter season and post-winter, you will have an additional 12,545 seats. Now, if we can maintain that inventory, plus the 65,000 coming, already you would have seen that we are looking at about 77,000 seats already. Now, beyond that, we are also in further dialogue and in discussion with airline operators. And since you mentioned about travel, I will be leaving this afternoon to go to ITB, again, to meet not only with hoteliers and other tour operators, but I will also be making a stop, I believe, for a couple hours in the United Kingdom to have discussions again with our major airlines. All this is being done, Honourable Member, to ensure that we drive the capacity. Now, once we have brought the capacity, air capacity to Barbados, no association or nobody can criticize this government for lack of air seats into the destination. It is now up to those who are marketing their hotels to ensure they do like what Sandals and other hotel companies do in order to secure their base on the airline, on the particular aircraft, to ensure that they also fill the occupancy. But one thing we will not be blamed for, because we provided the airlift, is that the occupancy should go up. So it's up now to the people in the hotel sector who market the hotels to take advantage of all the airlift capacity that we've brought to Barbados. And like I said, I haven't finished yet. I'm going to be on the road trying to get additional airlift into the destination. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And just as follow-up, given the chance, I suspect you would want to make the distinction between seats and passengers, 77,000 seats. In your capacity, though, I'd like to follow up and ask quickly, making your projections, what would be the ideal percentage occupancy of those 77,000 seats? What would you consider a successful venture in terms of filling those seats? What percentage would you consider acceptable? 100?
Well,
sorry.
The issue obviously is, the question is, do we have the carrying capacity in Barbados to drive what we're doing in terms of air seat capacity in Barbados? That's when it's a capacity accommodation. We do. And oftentimes you would hear in the news reports suggesting where people saying, well, hotels aren't full or we're at 50%. Truth be told, we have to get better at forecasting, and we have to get better at recording actual occupancies in hotels.
Right.
You know, oftentimes you hear somebody saying, well, you know, business is down, but you don't get the information. But what we have to do now is to move to a platform where occupancy is reported either to the Barbados Statistical Service or some other independent body, so that you can get a feel for where you are. Because if you're driving the airlift to the destination, there should be no complaints. Certainly, if you take the example of Virgin Atlantic, they put an additional 2 aircraft on the Barbados route between January and March. And I can also tell the Chamber that they've committed to us that those 2 additional services will continue through 24-25 winter season. So they too are seeing the demand. But if we are having this increased demand, the passengers are coming. Like I said, the plane, Virgin and BA and American, the others, not going to fly empty planes to Barbados. If they see a dip, of course, they will pull a move. So the issue for us is how best can we account? And we have to account not only from what we call the traditional accommodation sector in hotels, but we also have the Airbnb, we have the Vrbo and other platforms that provide a booking engine for people to come to Barbados. As I walk around Barbados and people congratulate the BTM and the ministry and myself for the work we've done, they will say, look at the beaches. You can't, you know, when you go to the beaches, they're crowded. When you go into a restaurant, you can't get a booking. They are staying someplace. And they're staying oftentimes not only traditional accommodation sector, but like I said, in the Airbnb Vrbo type. We have to find a way to account for inventory at those properties, and obviously we have to work collaboratively with, the Beta Group and the BHTA to ensure that we have a platform. It also, frankly, helps the ministry to plan. When I came to the ministry, a pet peeve of mine would have been data, because in order to make commercial decisions, you must have data. And therefore, if you have the data, you can make informed decisions. And therefore, we are moving gradually. We don't want to twist and bend any arms, but we're moving gradually to see if we can get that data, because it helps us. If we know, for example, what is the booking pace like and the forward bookings in the hotel sector, or generally the accommodation sector, it could then help me as a minister work with the ministry's team and the BTMA to say, okay, this is an area, looks a bit soft, it's not pacing as we would like. Let's do a targeted marketing intervention in this area or in these markets to drive additional business to Barbados. Or let's put a package of incentives working with the accommodation sector to drive business to the destination. And that's what we have to do. But we are working on it, like I said, and it's an opportunity for us to make good on what we have.
Thank you. So that your statement is that we are weak in terms of forecasting, except that I was still hoping to press you, Minister, into saying whether you would find 60% occupancy of those airplane seats, 70%, 85% acceptable. When one considers, and you will correct me if I'm wrong, since I'm not omniscient, whether in some cases it is the government that uses the taxpayers' money to pay for empty seats, so that we would like some kind of, to tell the taxpayer of Barbados what percentage you would find acceptable, 60, 70%, when we consider that there are some cases in which we pay for those empty seats.
Well, Honourable Member, I will take you back to my opening remarks. In my opening remarks, I indicated that Barbados is not paying one dime for any minimum revenue guarantees from the United States market. Mm-hmm. We're not, what we do is we go behind the gateway and we promote Barbados in the gateway. Mm-hmm. Virgin brought additional aircraft to Barbados, additional 2 in the winter, mm-hmm. and they're doing well. A minimum revenue guarantee would...
I beg your pardon, so we're not paying for the U.S., but
we're not paying
other source
no,
markets?
No, and we're not paying for we're not paying for any airlift in the United States coming out of this Canada for this mm-hmm. Summer. We are mm-hmm. working on a program, and we will make an announcement of that to drive increased summer business from Canada. Mm-hmm. That may require. Mm-hmm. And look, as I indicated, we have corporate airlines. Corporate airlines came to Barbados with 1 flight. When I joined the ministry, we were able to move it from 1 flight to 4 flights. The initial 1 flight would require maybe a guarantee. But today, if you ask the officers, did they utilize the guarantee? The answer is no. Because what the airlines like you to do is to say, if I come to your destination, I just want to have a minimum guarantee. And it can go in a number of ways. But the issue is this. When you look at it, the previous Democratic Labour Party government spent $42 million in revenue, and we call it a minimum revenue guarantee program. This Barbados Labour Party administration since 2018 only spent $7.5 million, okay? And the reality is that when I flew last June, in the sweltering heat of the summer, going into Dallas to meet with American Airlines didn't ask us for any revenue guarantee. When we left the meeting, they said they would review it. And we were in constant discussions with the Mr. Yusiski and Mr. Peter Mears, two outstanding directors, both from the Canadian and US market respectively. Mm-hmm. And we were able to confirm those arrangements and to get the traffic here because we went to them, we put the case to them, and did it. And the other thing I might tell you very interestingly, Honourable Member, mm-hmm. that because of compliance issues, airlines are moving away from that. What airlines, United, for example, there's no revenue guarantee. What airlines like to do is to build business on an incremental platform. And that is so, and then for other compliance issues, because you well know some of these companies are public companies, And when you're a public company, you have to be very careful how you interact and how you deal with government and financing. So I have said before, if you have to generate new airlifter market, particularly from different sources, and you have to incentivize an airline to come to Barbados, then we have to do so. And I make no apology for it, only because by doing that, you can stabilize. It doesn't mean, for example, that if you have a revenue guarantee in place, that you'll be paying the revenue because it is based on either the occupancy of the aircraft, we call load factors, and it also deals with the yield on the aircraft as well. So you might see an aircraft coming in here maybe with, 150 seat capacity, but they may come in maybe with 80 or 90 passengers, but you may think that it's flying empty. But the yield on the passenger on that flight will be so high that you don't even have to pay for revenue guarantee. So that is the way we have to go about it. And the other benefit of having these incentives for airlines is to ensure you have airlift, because during a peak period, you also want to bring them for non-peak periods as well, so that the people in the accommodation sector can benefit. So I spoke to at length when we discussed, when I was invited to the BHDA quarterly meeting, I think it was. I spoke to the whole issue of revenue guarantees, why we have to do it, how much money was spent in the past, how much money we've spent. But our vision and this strategic initiative is to ensure we put money behind the gateway in terms of marketing, so that when you are in Boston, honorable member, with your family, and you look up, you can see, come to Barbados, or come home this summer, or we gathering in Barbados. And if you decide to take your family down to San Francisco on the West Coast, you will also see it. And if you go into Chicago as well, and we are, by the way, and we are also negotiating to see how best we can get even additional airlift out to Chicago. So you have a team at the ministry, hard at work, a little travel is involved, and you know me, I like to canvas. And this job takes a lot of my time. But I love to canvas on the ground. So you can imagine the premium that I place when I have to leave Barbados to go on campus, because to canvas for additional airlift. But I do it because the economic fortunes of Barbados demand it. And I know this ministry is almost like an economic ministry. And if you don't deliver, then I serve at the Prime Minister's pleasure. So if you don't deliver, you know what will happen. But thanks be to God, I have delivered with my team at the ministry and the BTMI to ensure that we can do what we long for. And the other point, Mr. Speaker, is that when you see, for example, come November, the return of Delta Airlines, that was absent from Barbados since 2017. We were in office in 2017. And when you see American Airlines return to Barbados from JFK, and we were not in office when they left, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman, through you, it tells you that the government is hard at work. And I must also, for the record, thank the Prime Minister for the support that she's given the BTMI, the ministry, in order to execute the mandate. But when you look at it pound for pound, I believe even you, Honourable Leader of the Opposition, will conclude that we're working hard, and as you describe it, in the patriotic interests of Barbados. Thank you, sir.
For the record, I never say that. But a discerning public, I beg your pardon?
Honorable,
This is the third question, sir.
Yes.
This is the third question. I was following up with your indulgence.
Proceed.
I don't know why the honourable member for Christchurch East is intervening. He came late.
You do not.
Don't be distracted by him, sir.
Distracted by yourselves.
I'm protecting you from him.
I'm protecting you from him as well. Proceed.
It is mutual. Thank you so much, sir.
Inform Barbados as you seem to
Yes,
want to
I
do,
think he's heard you.
telling them things they already know. Thank
Yes, yes. Minister, a discerning public will embrace the operative word that you use, incentivize the airlines. I think we know what you mean. Your language is very subtle, very diplomatic, very clever. But let us move on. And I'm going to move in a direction in which you politicize the matter of policy. And you probably would be a little disappointed if I did not engage you on that. Now, as you know, Minister, a government is continuous, and you've spoken to thunderous applause from your colleagues. You excited them. And they're probably excited because this government is able to embrace what previous governments did and did successfully. So that I hope that applause would extend to the penchant for embracing past projects and appearing to have success with them. There's GOL, G-O-L, that's an airline that was brought in prior to your administration. There's Avianca. There's Copa. And to move away from the airlines, there would be an IDB program for tourism. I'm sure you know of that. There's the Sandoz investment, all done prior to your dispensation. The Indigo investment, well embraced by the present government, and we congratulate you for your ability to embrace. And then there's the airport, seaport redevelopment, warm embrace by this government, and we congratulate you for that ability to embrace. But we know that in relationships, the embrace is not consummation of the relationship. And then, you know, the public can easily get the impression with this government's excitement over St. Philip that this government started the Sam Lords project. Somebody who is not careful with his vision and general knowledge of things in Barbados, the Honourable Member for Christchurch West, he also has a very warm embrace. And, but you will admit, Minister, that these projects and the Sam Lords project was begun long before you had the privilege of occupancy in this place. So that this is an opportunity for you to say that your embrace of these projects is an acceptance of the visionary policies undertaken back then, and that you as present minister are now happy to accept and to embrace these projects, even if you do it as your own. But you're not like that. But you're happy that these projects came along and fell into your warm embrace.
Well, honourable member of the opposition, you know, and I have come from the corporate sector, and perhaps I should probably give you a more commercial perspective.
Yes.
Oftentimes, you might have a roadmap, but there's some people who don't know how to get the roadmap. And I believe the last administration had a roadmap in words, but could not deliver it in actions. I take you back to your points. You know, you can also have a chief executive officer who is competent and who can realize the objectives of the company, and there's one who will struggle to do so. I believe it's fair to say that this Barbados Labour Party administration has charted a proper course for tourism development. We had record numbers in 2019, and I am convinced that as we go forward, if I'm still minister or there's another minister, that the Barbados Labour Party government, the administration that I'm a part of, will also see record numbers of arrivals into Barbados. But let me take you back to GOL, for example. It was a Brazilian charter. It started on the last administration, and it ended under the last administration. Avianca started on the last administration, ended under the last administration. COPA, the officials here from BTA can correct me, COPA started under this Barbados Labour Party administration. And it started because when I came to office, I felt it necessary to build out a Latin American strategy. And the Latin American strategy has worked. In fact, if you look at the arrivals for January, Latin America has the most significant growth through Copa Airlines. And I made the point in my opening remarks that if you look and see where the source of business came from, it came from Argentina, it came from Costa Rica, it came from those areas within what we call Latin America that can drive business to the destination. The National Tourism Program, as you well know, yes, that was a program that was negotiated by the former administration. But if I had my way, you can't renege on these things, but if I had my way, I perhaps, if I were at the time a minister, I perhaps would have asked and directed for certain things to be done, which could improve, for example, the national tourism offerings. The Sandals investment is widely known. Sandals is what it is. The reality is, if you ask Sandals now, are they doing better today in this environment versus the previous environment? Are they making more money that gave them the confidence to expand? And that's the point I made. You have sometimes a competent CEO, and oftentimes you have one who just can't get the results. I'm happy to say that government is a continuum, and yes, there are projects that the former government would have inherited from the Barbados Labour Party. Some of them they didn't execute well, others they may have. But the reality is that this government, through very strategic initiatives, have helped to ensure that notwithstanding we are coming out of COVID, that we are recovering, but we have to look beyond recovery. And that is the strategic focus of the government and the Ministry of Tourism. I hope I would have answered. And when you look at the growth as well, Honourable Member, the Governor of the Central Bank has reported on the growth, and the growth of the sector is going in the right direction. And touch wood, we hope that it continues for a long time. Thank you, sir.
Yes, and you did exclude Sam Lords, but that's okay.
I didn't want to share my thoughts with you on Sam Lords.
No, please don't.
But we can do that on the developmental level in terms of the strategy.
Yes.
But I reserve those comments
Yes,
on another occasion.
the government's ongoing test right now is Hyatt. That's the government's ongoing test. As compared against Sam Lords, Hyatt, nothing is happening there. So that is this government's ongoing test.
I don't think it's fair to say nothing is happening. The hotel is open. It has 400.
Hyatt is open?
No, you said Sam Lords? Or you
No,
said,
I said that Hyatt, not Hyatt, the other one in St. Philip, Sam Lords, that you left Sam Lords out in your review, your last review. That's fine, we all make little errors, nothing to worry about. But I'm saying to you, as a follow-up with His Honor's indulgence, that this government's test, if you accept that the last government succeeded, got a passing grade, a high passing grade with Sam Lords, you will similarly accept that this government is experiencing, in silence, is experiencing a failing grade with Hyatt. But let us not argue. Let us not argue. I'm obliged to you, sir. And safe travels, please.
No, thank you. But I wouldn't want you to say that that we are touting the success of any form of government, because they made a clear distinction. You can have a plan, you can have a roadmap. The issue is how do you get there? And at the end of the period, can you measure it and see that you've accomplished what you set out? And I made the point that I believe in a very short 5 years, notwithstanding COVID and the impact of COVID, that we have recovered well and we are on the rebound for very serious growth in tourism sector. Thank you.
Yes, we do look forward to walking into Hyatt one day. Yes.
Honourable.
Mr. Chair.
Your Honor, with the reserved right to follow up on other members' questions, I think that is a right I have. That when a member asks, yes?
Yes.
Thank you very much, sir.
Honourable Member for Christchurch East.
Mr. Chairman, I beg that you do not report progress as Honored Speaker and beg for leave to sit again.
The question is that I do not report progress to His Honour the Speaker. Beg for leave to sit again. All honourable members in favor, say aye. All members against, say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Reported progress and ask for leave to sit again.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that we do suspend for 5 minutes, for 10 minutes, sir, and return at 12:10, 10 past 12.
The question is that this honorable chamber be suspended until 10 minutes after 12. All those honorable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Me think the ayes have it. This honorable chamber stands suspended until 10 minutes after 12. Before we revert to the Standing Finance Committee,
Mr. Speaker, revert to announcements by Your Honor.
before we reconvene for Standing Finance Committee, I wish to acknowledge the presence and welcome the delegation from the Canadian House of Commons and the Canadian Senate, accompanied by members from the local branch. You all stand?
Revert to government business.
Revert to government business. Prior to the suspension, we were in Standing Finance Committee, and we revert to Standing Finance Committee.
We revert to Standing Finance Committee. Honourable Member for Christchurch West Central.
Thank you, Chair. Just want to ask one question, and that's it from me. I would be remiss of me as Minister of the Environment not to ask. It'd be remiss of me as Minister of the Environment not to ask a question about the environment. I know there's something called mindful tourism, where at BTMI would have partnered with a company out of Europe to have this whole concept of mindful tourism. I, as minister, would call it green tourism. And I know there is a trust for your ministry's perspective to have a green touristic approach to your mandate. For me, the development of the tourism industry is not only a socio-economic one, it's for me an ecological one. And so I would like to know from you, because the whole idea of mindful tourism speaks to the planting of trees. I know that your ministry at some point in time would engage the Lufthansa Airlines to have a project to offset your carbon dioxide emissions. So the planting of trees, for instance, or what is happening with that type of initiative, the cleaning of beaches, saving the endangered sea turtle as an experience for our tourists, and to have this whole trust for biological diversity conservation. These are the things I would like to know about in terms of your initiatives, recognizing, of course, that you are under the threshold of having a new sustainable development tourism act that will speak to green touristic activities. So you can elaborate and expound for the purposes of those who operate in the biosphere like myself.
Thank you, Honourable Member. You're showing your expertise in these matters. I am not an expert like you are, but I also will take this opportunity to thank you and the workers at the National Conservation Commission, those who are self-employed and those who are directly employed under your charge for keeping Barbados clean. It is a hallmark that we have to, of course, maintain in Barbados, because if we are tourism reliant, in not a small measure, but in a big way, we have to ensure that we do so. Cleaning of the beaches, of course, I believe it is your ministry's responsibility and not the Ministry of Tourism. But I will say that there are several associations who also assist with the cleaning, with the beach cleanups. From time to time, you see a number of organizations doing this. In respect to your question on green tourism, I think it's fair to say that when we launched the BEST program in Barbados, a component of the BEST program was to ensure that we have a greener Barbados. And when I say greener Barbados, I speak in respect of aspects of resilience and aspects related to climate change mitigation. As we all know, there's an ongoing climate crisis. And therefore, when we have carrying capacity and the future carrying capacity within the country, we have to ensure that our systems are resilient and our systems can stand the test of time. So when you speak to green tourism and ecological aspects of it, there are a couple of things that we have done. For example, what springs to mind is the Harrison's Cave. We also have a number of gullies around Barbados that we can create new attractions, and I believe you're doing some work there, I believe. We also have water-saving devices within a number of hotels, and we're actively promoting such. The issue of treatment plants, so we can then move to irrigation of lawns and outdoor areas. We have done a significant amount of work in respect of solar using energy from the sun. And we have also within the ministry undertaken an audit, and the audit spoke to what we in Barbados can do to become not even a greener tourist destination, but how resilient we could become within this situation. I will ask a lot of what we're doing at the Caves of Barbados. I will ask Eleanor Carl to speak to it, and also the Permanent Secretary and or the Director of Research Acting can speak to some of the initiatives that we undertook in order to conduct an audit of our tourism facilities in respect of the greening of the tourism sector. Thank you. PS?
Thank you, Minister, and good afternoon, members of Parliament. My name is Francine Blackman, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Tourism and International Transport. Minister did indicate that we have been examining within the ministry, undertaking an audit to determine how we can influence sustainability within the tourism sector, and certainly with a view to making it more green. Excuse me. Basically, when we looked at that audit, we sought to look at the carrying capacity of the country in order to how we host our guests and what impact as we add more and more of the visitors to the island, what type of stress could potentially be had on the infrastructure, which includes the road networks, which includes water supply and our ability to provide electricity and so on. Basically, it showed us that we certainly were not at full capacity, or we had not reached a point where that infrastructure was compromised. And we certainly could continue with the trajectory in which we envisage to continue to grow the tourism sector. But certainly, as we look at that, we noted that as new hotel plants and so on, properties were coming on stream, those properties were being encouraged to establish treatment plants and so on within their properties, which would help to reduce the burden on the overall infrastructure. So these are some of the initiatives that we have been looking at, and we will continue to make sure that as we continue to grow the tourism project, our tourism program, that each time we do so, we are mindful, working with our stakeholders, working with our sister ministries who may have responsibilities in these areas, that we continue the conversation, because we are all working to make sure that what we do are in alignment with the national goals for Barbados. In addition, I would want to let the House know that last year we were successful at the same tourism fair that the minister will be embarking on later this afternoon. We were successful in winning an award there in terms of the sustainability of tourism. And one of the areas that I know the BTMI is also working on is to encourage the sustainability within community tourism in Barbados. And these initiatives, there are different types of initiatives that are coming through from the communities, and we will continue to work in those areas. But generally, all of this is fit under that carrying capacity study that the ministry did undertake, and the feedback from that study at this point has encouraged us to really keep going. I would now end there at this point, Minister. And
I'll ask the CEO of the Caves to respond as well.
Thank you, Minister. Good morning, members of the House. My name is Eleanor Carroll, and I'm the manager of Caves of Barbados Limited. As you know, Chukka Caribbean Adventures Barbados took over the operations of Harrison Cave at the end of 2020. Since then, they have plans to expand the solar photovoltaic system that Caves of Barbados would have had. We would have transferred the license over to them, and the plan is for them to expand solar PVs. Outside of the expansion of the solar PVs, they are trying to diversify the product offerings of Harrison Cave. So instead of just having basically the tours of the caves, they would have installed, many Barbadians would know, the zip line and the challenge course. And they've introduced an aviary. They also have nature trails. So they're trying to reduce the foot traffic through the caves by diversifying. They've also completed the stairs down from the visitor entry level, so you can opt to use a stairway to get down to the valley floor instead of the elevators. So those, in addition to which, they have the Chukka Foundation, which is a foundation that is working with the community in St. Thomas to look at how they can incorporate the community of St. Thomas in the development plans for sustainable tourism at Harrison Cave. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I'm sure the Honourable Minister, when he's traversing Barbados, he will have an opportunity to visit the Harrison's Cave and Chukka, as they refer to it now, and see the offerings that they have there. And since he's a lover of birds and other reptiles and animals, he would be afforded a wonderful opportunity to enjoy himself in that pristine domain.
I am unrepentant in my quest for biodiversity preservation. I just wanted to follow on and let the BTMI speak to this whole issue of mindful tourism, because I know you would have been embarking on a project and a program to do some work in this whole mindful tourism exercise. So if you can elucidate, I'll be happy.
Yeah, I will ask the BTMI to respond to it. I'm not sure if the chairman or the CEO wish to speak to it, or PSC would wish to speak to it. Product, okay, Arsha.
Good morning, Chairman, honorable members of the House. I'm Marcia Aline. I'm the Chief Product Development Officer with the Barbados Tourism Marketing, Inc. And I just really wanted to respond to the question of mindful travel, which would have started a few years ago and has been continuing. We have been working with the National Conservation Committee and other organizations as it relates to the cleanup of beaches, especially as it relates to the sargassum seaweed. We have not been doing that physically, but we've been working with the team to ensure that that cleanup continues. We did win the Green Destination Stories, which was held in ITB, I think, last year. And that project continues, where we're working with a number of agencies such as Cocoa Hill, Walker's Reserve, the National Botanical Gardens, to ensure that the tree planting exercises continues. We also work with Cocoa Hill to ensure that their farm-to-table program is exposed to the visitors actually on island. The European travelers specifically are very interested in the whole mindful travel, where they ensure that they want to travel to destinations where they can mitigate their carbon footprint. In addition to that, the Walker's Reserve has been doing some considerable work on regenerative planting and the whole program of regenerative travel. And that exercise actually is continuing, where they are inviting visitors to traverse the entire area and get reconnected with nature as a way of, again, traveling from a mindful perspective. The National Botanical Gardens, because the tree planting exercises actually continues, and you can actually now do tree planting, not just there, but at Cocoa Hill as well, and also at Walker's Reserve. I also wanted to share, Chair, that the Barbados is actually the chair of the Sustainable Tourism Committee with the Association of Caribbean States, and the areas such as the Turtle Project, the tree planting exercises, and the mindful travel, as well as community tourism, are all plans that the ACS is actually working on and working through to ensure that we are able to reach our sustainable goals for 2030. Thank you.
Thank you.
Honorable member for St. Michael Northwest.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon to all. Minister, my question, I would like to direct it to the CEO of the port. It relates to the Pearl Bay Fish Landing Facility. I just want to know when phase 2 of that project will continue. I know some time have passed since the opening of the fish market. And secondly, the construction of the kiosk also that's supposed to be a part of that project. I just want to know if you could update me and the good people of Pearl Bay in relation to what's happening down there. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member. We did discuss aspects of it earlier, but I will ask the Chief Executive Officer to respond in respect of the questions you asked in respect of the phase 2 and the kiosk. CEO, John Marie.
Thank you, Minister. With respect to the kiosks, we are building 3 kiosks at Pearl Bay. They're being constructed off-site. There's an event at Pearl Bay earlier this month. When that event is concluded, you should see the kiosks being transported to the facility. The intention is to have those 3 kiosks completed by June of this year also. With respect to the other aspects of the project, we are having discussions with the Chief Fisheries Officer, so we will also continue to implement the phase 2 of the project. With respect to the slip bay, we are still awaiting the planning permission to be able to conclude on that aspect.
And then thank you very much, pretty much. And Honourable Member, you would appreciate as well the work that's currently being undertaken by the port as part of its corporate social responsibility program.
Yes, thank you. Okay. Well, one more thing. In relation to the planning permission, I could speak to the goodly minister, Dr. Duguid, and to have that speed up. Thank you.
We will, yes, thank you very much, Honourable Member. The Senior Minister and Member for Christchurch West continues to work very closely with the Bridgetown Port. He had a massive project on his desk regarding the Bridgetown Port, for which we're grateful, and they have now approved planning permission for the aggregate berth, right? For the aggregate berth. That was a major undertaking. So the other permissions are there, and obviously they're sifting through them, and we're getting them. So I'm sure the Honourable Member for Christchurch West would not wish to disappoint you, and therefore you can be assured that as part of the ongoing Port's corporate social responsibility program, that we will ensure that those facilities are built out in a way that all residents and visitors and other locals to the area, and in particular, so you can have your song down there, and ensuring that the people are very happy, and that they see the proud work that the Barbados Labour Party continues to do in your constituency of St. Michael Northwest, which butts and abounds St. Michael West Central, which is my constituency. And therefore, if we have to ensure that St. Michael Northwest remains squarely within the purview of the Barbados Labour Party, it falls to us to ensure that we maintain our capital expansion program in that area. I hope I have been worthy of your question, and you are deserving of my response, sir.
Well said, Minister. I endorse that. Thank you.
Honourable Member for St. Andrew.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Growing up as a child, we will always hear that tourism is our business, and a lot was said here last week about community tourism. And firstly, let me also thank your ministry, because you've done a significant
Honourable
amount.
Member, just go a little closer to the mic.
Let me just first thank your ministry for the work they have done, certainly in my constituency, where there's evidence of community involvement. But I think if tourism is to truly be our business, there should be more involvement. And I just want to make a suggestion before I ask my questions. I believe that in every parish in this country, there's some unique experience that can be enhanced, can be packaged, and can be presented to not only tourists, but locals alike. Now, if I'm to use the example of St. Andrew, where we took a cultural event, crab night. It was basically just a few guys going into the bush and catching crabs and cooking them under a tree. And we have transformed that event with the help of the BTMI into an event that is now a national event that people look forward to, that tourists call every year asking as to when the date is. Looking forward to that event every single August. I believe that in other parishes, right across Barbados, there's something, whether it be geographical or cultural, that can be repackaged and presented and sold in that very same way. But we have to find them. And perhaps it may require a competition of sorts or something of that nature, so that persons would know that the support is there for the ministry if they are to come forward for a proposal, that they can get that support and that help from the ministry to further advance their community project. My question, however, has to do with the whole concept of making tourism more meaningful for the visitor, and more specifically to signage. I think I would have asked a couple years ago where we are in signage. In my ministry, we are about to embark on a national signage program because we understand the importance of signage to the local population. But I believe it's even more important for persons coming here that they're out there to have a meaningful experience, that there's adequate signage available right across the island. So I want to know where we are in terms of enhancing our signage and what role, if any, is technology, perhaps AI technology, what role that may play in the enhancement of not only the signage for tourists, but enhancement of the offerings, the product that we are developing for our visitors. That's question one.
Thank you, Honourable Member, for your suggestions as well. Perhaps we don't have it like timetable the way you've packaged it, but certainly the unique experiences that you spoke to, we have, and what the Airbnb and Verbo type accommodation standard caused us to do was to ensure that people who visit Barbados and their stay within the communities have an opportunity to experience the communities. But I take your point because I know that you have a particular event in your constituency. I believe you refer to it as a Krabi Night. And you also have the integration of visitors along with locals. And I believe that program as a community project is in part sponsored through the Barbados Tourism Marketing, Inc. In respect of making it more meaningful, I do agree with you. I am of the view that in every parish that we are entering, we should have welcome signs. In addition to that, as we have the Barbados port, commonly known as the Bridgetown port, there is a Barbados sign. And if you were to see the number of tourists who gather around that area to have a photo opportunity, I think it speaks well for the destination. I am aware that the BTMI is currently undertaking some additional sites for my review. I have received one. I haven't moved on it yet because obviously we have to discuss it with another ministry, and we will do so. But what I will encourage and mandate the BTMI to do going forward is to engineer the appropriate welcome signs for each parish, but in working with the community to ensure that we have such signs. I think another opportunity exists where we can have Barbadian-based cultural, iconic statues and other replica positioned in Barbados for even more photo opportunities. This is something that has worked well in other destinations, and I have no doubt that we will do so. What I will do at this time, I'll pause, but I'll ask Ms. Marsha Aline again to give you some additional feedback on what we're going to be doing in this area and the strategy for the build-out of signage with respect to the tourism awareness campaign. Mrs. Aline?
Thank you, Minister, Honourable Member. I just wanted you to know that the Barbados Tourism Marketing, Inc. has identified historic sites across the island which we intend to erect as a historical location so that persons can identify these various sites. I'm not at liberty to actually go into all of these sites at this particular moment because that matter is actually before our board in terms of the termination. But just to let you know that we have incorporated not just the actual location of these historical sites, which will give persons information on the historical happenings around that particular area, but also we've incorporated the electronic uses of QR codes, so that when persons are able to scan their their phones, the QR codes would take them to the actual story surrounding that particular area, so that they can actually have more information about Heritage Barbados. So that's one of the projects that certainly has our attention, that we're working on assiduously to ensure it's actually completed. In addition to that, we also have identified a number of iconic spots around the island where we'll be placing Barbados-type signage so that persons can actually have picture ops at iconic locations across the island. So we have taken note of both sets of signage. One would be iconic signage, and the other would be historical signage or informational signage as is widely known. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we should also speak to the fact that the Run Barbados Marathon as an iconic event, and I think we are celebrating, what, 30 years? I think we just celebrated our 30th year, if I'm not mistaken. Don't want to mislead the House. But it's also a unique, one of the unique attractions that we package, certainly in your constituency of St. Andrew. And I was there last year for the Run Barbados Marathon and the Run Barbados events. And I must tell you that the visitors to the island thoroughly enjoyed it. We had a wide cross-section of visitors, including those from Latin America who were on island. And it was a wonderful occasion to see locals as well as tourists participating in all the lead-up events to the ultimate Run Barbados Marathon. So I think we have some of those experiences, and we will continue to build them out, as you've heard the officer from the BTMI articulate. Thank you.
All right. My second question, firstly, let me start by just saying that I'm glad to see that the numbers are up. I know that is in a large way because of the efforts of you and your team. We are seeing so many tourists on the ground today, and so many tourists in Barbados. But not so long ago, we would have been through the crisis that was COVID, and we have seen how that had impacted on our numbers, how it had impacted our tourism industry. And all of the experts are saying that it's another crisis, whether it be a pandemic or some other occurrence, where natural occurrence are. I mean, we're in that part of the world where natural disaster is something that can occur anytime, any year, every year. Are there any, what we refer to sometimes as crisis management protocols or of any type that we are discussing within your ministry that would help us to respond in the event that we are impacted by some unforeseen event or some other kind of natural disaster, that we are in a position that we're not caught flat-footed like how we were back during the COVID crisis?
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. To answer your question regarding disaster, and I'll also talk about a little bit of resilience in this matter. The ministry, since I joined the ministry, and I'm sure before that, the ministry has been working with the BHDA. We are looking at, obviously, opportunities on how best we can mitigate any disasters. For example, we met last year under my chairmanship, again with the BHDA. And what we did was to set out a protocol that we want, an MOU rather, that we want to agree on. And it has to do, for example, in the event that there's a disaster at one particular hotel or two hotels or multiple hotels, to engage a framework how best we can accommodate those customers at another hotel, at another receiving hotel, to mitigate any further exposure or risks associated with that particular disaster. Discussions are ongoing. The BHD will be reverting to us very shortly with their plan. And the second thing had to do, obviously, in thinking about disaster management and risk planning. How do we therefore get visitors to our island to the airport in the event there's an emergency? That too has been worked on, and we anticipate very shortly that we'll be concluding that MOU. And essentially what it's doing is about having hoteliers and other members within the accommodation sector sharing resources in the event of a disaster. The other issue that we have to be mindful of the whole issue of being resilient. Barbados, like all other countries, are prone to external shocks, and Barbados as a destination must ensure that we become resilient. We're working on obviously those pathways to resilience, and one of the issues that we're obviously working on, in fact, in January, the Permanent Secretary and other members of the team BTMI would have attended the Global Resilience Conference in Jamaica, hosted by the UN Tourism Office, formerly UNWTO, as well as the Mona campus of the University in Jamaica, and obviously the Ministry of Tourism in Jamaica. And we had an opportunity to see firsthand a number of initiatives that they have put in place for resilience, and the sharing of information which they've agreed to share with us certainly would help us in terms of building out additional resilience. We have to ensure that when it comes to our water supply, when it comes to accommodation, that we are, and other areas, and I'm not going to bore the Honourable Chamber with all those areas, but that become even more resilient. Resilience is also, building resilience is also an opportunity for us to ensure that we recover in the shortest possible time for any external shocks or any disasters that might come our way. So I can assure you, Honourable Member, that we are working on that resilience platform. You would have heard earlier from the presentation of members from the ministry speaking to the whole issue of the green economy and how we can factor in the green economy into resilience. So it is ongoing, and it is really top of mind for us, because we cannot afford, in the event there's any shocks, God forbid, that we are not in a position to rebound in the shortest possible time. And because we are largely dependent on tourism, we even have to build greater resilience to avoid any fallout. Thank you. The Permanent Secretary wants to, Ms. Francine Blackman. Thank you.
To add further to Minister, the ministry also is working with CARFO, and what they are doing is taking the lessons learned, certainly also with the Ministry of Health, the lessons learned during COVID, certainly at a Caribbean regional wide, and developing protocols as well as guidelines that they are about to share with Caribbean governments to help them in terms of our response in the event of another pandemic. But in addition to looking at the climatic or pandemics, the ministry also, in terms of trying to mitigate our risks from an economic perspective, that's why we looked at diversifying the markets from which we have been trying to obtain our guests, our tourist arrivals. And that is one of the reasons that had underpinned our going into Latin America, as well as trying to seek out new markets from Africa, as well as from the Middle East, and which also therefore underpins the opportunity that we have in our discussions with a number of governments in that area. So in all, we have been trying to address and mitigate the risks from a climatic perspective, as well as from an economic one, in the discussions that we have been having with a number of our stakeholders and the different markets that we've been trying to push through in order to have Barbados's footprint now widen in these markets. Thank you.
Okay, that's it for me. I just want to, again, thank you. And I think I speak on behalf of a very grateful Barbados when I say thank you for the work that you've been doing, Minister, you and your team. Continue the good work. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member for St. Andrew. Honourable Member for St. Thomas.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would have had that road signage, it's on, It's on, beg your pardon. I would have had that as my very first question, and I'm thankful that the Honourable Minister and his team have given some responses, because we know what it is like in Barbados. You want to go somewhere and you want to find where Mahal, somebody say, go around that corner, go yonder, so. And it really frustrates even locals. So it is a great idea that has been pursued, and I'm really extremely happy for the response that was given in relation to road signage. The only addition I wanted to it is to find out what are the synergies with other governmental institutions like the Public Works Ministry or even the private sector to be able to have it done, because there where I live and most of Barbados, it is extremely woefully lacking to get signage, the billboards and all that. So I'm happy that the Honourable Minister and his team have given questions, so I let that one just slip away, Mr. Chairman, sir. My question though, let me congratulate the Honourable Minister and his team. I almost forgot, I was waiting so long. Let me congratulate the Honourable Minister and his team for the excellent work that has been done. And I'm extremely pleased with a lot of what is in the pipeline. And I pray that we will continue to work together in this country to make a tremendous difference in the lives of our people, because we cannot be inviting visitors here and then have some challenges that we know we've had before, and one or two are still niggling, but at least what I'm hearing here today gives me the confidence that Barbados will be one of the premier countries in the Caribbean when it comes to attracting the visitors, as we see how our numbers have grown over the many months. So I want to thank the Honourable Minister for his leadership and the team. I also want, sir, though, for my question then to the Honourable Minister, is to do with niggling problems that we hear visitors talk about. And this in particular is to do with, I call it the conveyor belt at the airport. And almost everybody who comes says, I had to wait for an hour or longer periods in order to get my luggage. Yes, we have increased in our numbers of flights and so on, but what plans are there in these estimates that will help me to better understand that there are plans for the upgrades so that the rest of the traveling public, meaning now those going into the international arena, will get an opportunity to hear? Because my name was given by Sir Don when he sang Ask Cynthia. I was a little girl then. I have fitted the profile, so everybody in Barbados calls me about everything. So I would just want the Honourable Minister and his team to indicate to us what plans there are so it can allay some of the fears of the passengers and the other persons who are traveling or plan to travel, that they get a better understanding as to where we are and what we are doing in their own interest. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member, and also on behalf of the team, let me also thank you for your commendation. In respect of the situation at the Grant Williams International Airport, it is a challenge that we inherited and a challenge that we intend to fix. I did indicate earlier that what we've done is that we sat down with the ground handlers of Barbados, GCG Ground, as well as Caribbean Aircraft Handling. Those are the two major ground handlers in Barbados. Obviously, there's an in-flight operation run by Inter-Caribbean for their aircraft. What we found was that we had an inordinate delay on some days with the baggage coming off the aircraft. We had meetings with the ground handling companies, and I'm pleased to say that they were present at all requested meetings. They were fully engaged. What we moved to, and of course the Prime Minister was also involved in the early stage in one discussion, but what we moved to was a situation where if they were unable to adhere to standard operating procedures, then we would have a statutory fine or we will have a consensual fine. So with the mandate given to us, we were able to meet with the ground handlers. We had very cordial meetings with them, but we agreed to certain standards. For example, from the time an aircraft touches down at Grant Williams International Airport, it comes to the gate, the beacon light, which is the red light on top of the aircraft, is switched off. Then there's a process that has to commence, and I'll leave the technical experts to elaborate when it's referred to Mr. Hadley Bourne and Mr. Lemuel Padmore. So we took a series of steps commencing from the time of arrival of the aircraft until the first bag is delivered to the back area where customs must do the inspections before the bag is then sent through to the arrivals hall for the guests. On that occasion, we went through those procedures. I'm happy to say that we had agreement, and whereas we had significant delays in the past, if you were coming through Grand M's International Airport anytime around December 23rd, you were seeing the greater efficiencies that we've been able to make there. And in fact, the customers have been commending the Grand M's International Airport team and the ground handlers for the work they do. I must tell you that there's some aircraft when they land in Barbados, because if they do not prioritize bags, such as the premium bags or the first or business class bags, those bags sometimes are packed in a way that would not allow those to become the first bags. If the aircraft from its original point, its original destination, if they pack the aircraft the way they're meant to, then the first bags off will be the premium bags. So we have time standards. For example, the first, depending on the type of aircraft, we have a commitment, say within 15 minutes, then the first bag must be in the arrivals hall. I'll ask like I said, the CEO and Mr. Lemuel Padmore to walk you through that process. The other good thing about that, because there are penalties attached, we refer to them as consensual fines, the ground handlers are now incentivized to ensure that they meet the standard. The other issue is that the airline, obviously an aircraft, once it's here, it's landed here, it has a turnaround period. Sometimes an aircraft may have, if it's a long haul carrier, may say 2 hours. But if you have what we call a short haul route, like say going to Miami or New York, you have to turn around that aircraft within 1 hour. So you have to, sometimes if you have a plane of approximately 200 persons, and you have 2 or 3 pieces, you go and imagine you coming close to 1,000 bags if you have 3, or maybe 400 or 500 bags, depends on the average. So they're duty bound to turn around that aircraft within their service agreement contracts with the airlines, and therefore they also have that duty. What we also did is that there's some steps that we were practicing or following, I should say, in the past that we no longer follow. For example, port health. We no longer have to wait on port health to knock on the door of the aircraft and to receive the information. That information is being transmitted, and I want to say thanks to the Ministry of Health for ensuring that that became a reality, and that is working well. We fine-tuned other processes within the ground handling operations in the Grand M's International Airport. What we also have is that we have a report on a daily basis, which is submitted to the Grand M's International Airport and forwarded into the ministry, and it's also consolidated weekly and monthly. What that does, it tells us, for example, are the ground handlers meeting the standard? And if they're not meeting the standard, what was the delay and what caused it? And of course, the associated fines for failing to meet the standard. So the standards are documented, but like I said, I'll pause and I'll allow Mr. Lemuel Padmore as well as Mr. Halliburn to give you further details on the system and the improvements to the system. And I must tell you, as a traveler, and it's not that they have my bag marked with any special marking, but I can tell you that as a traveler, I have seen an improvement in the system, and it's going in the right direction. I'll defer to Mr. Padmore and Mr. Halliburn. Thank you.
Honourable Minister, I heard your deference, but this question was posed last week and dealt with. So, and in the interest of time, I think that we should proceed to the next question. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I didn't want to be Her Honor, Mr. Speaker, asked the question. So as an officer, as a host like you, I felt it appropriate to give her some background. Perhaps she would have been busy attending to other matters of state. So I don't know if you still want that to happen, but I will abide by your ruling, sir,
yes,
because this is your house.
You have given
I'm in your house, sir.
You have given a quite detailed response, and I want to ensure that the member is able to ask her next 2 questions, and then we have one more member from for St. Michael West, and we have a particular cutoff time as we are off our. So I will give move the next, Honourable Member St. Thomas, you can move to
Thank
your
you.
next question.
Thank you, sir. I'll be able to get that information, otherwise I'm sure. The final question, though, in the interest of time, would be associated with, again, I'm saying synergies, because I'm talking now the Ministry of Tourism in association with Youth Affairs and Culture, Elder Affairs, I cannot leave that out, sir, and so on, to find out about the synergies. I live in a constituency that has so many areas of interest. Some of them really need to get some professional assistance, some funding and all that. And in the light that we are now attracting so many other thousands of visitors to the island, I think our tourism project would expand if assistance is offered in that respect. I remember distinctly in the early 1980s, 1982 to be exact, every parish in Barbados had a festival. St. Thomas Festival in particular, I was the chairperson, so I remember very well. And we were able to attract both locals and scores of tourists or visitors to the island to be able to be entertained and to get accustomed to what our cultural heritage is like. And I want to indicate then, sir, the various communities I have in St. Thomas. I say I have because that's where I live. And I've been born there and went to school there. So in the community of St. Thomas, there are so many areas that I would really wish to see more done beyond Harrison's Cave, which we know is now one of the premier locations on the island. The Flower Forest, Barberton and Bounding, St. Joseph, Mount Hillaby, that I would have made a formal request to the BTMI at that time, more than 10 years ago, for a simple bathroom location. Because visitors come down on the east, on the west coast, and so they have a beverage down in Whole Town, then they stop off at another location. By the time they get there, there's no washroom facility unless one is being done now. The road conditions are bad, but this is not this Honourable Minister's responsibility. It is really one that I will really pursue further because the Honourable Member for St. Andrew and myself, we share the residents who live on either side of that road. But that is one I will tackle with the other minister. But the point I'm making is Mount Hillaby has got a pristine view of the East Coast. But then it becomes so overgrown with bush and all that. We beg MTW because their hands are tied. We beg Ministry of Public Works to help us to cut down the trees. Sometimes the residents themselves go. But people trek and go to Mount Hillaby. They say, I want to see the highest point in Barbados. And as a result, we do not want residents and locals to be traversing that area. And then because of the overgrowth of the bush, we know sometimes how some young people are so inclined to want to snatch a wallet or to do something silly. And therefore, I want to know what plans does that ministry have in helping us to be able to upgrade Mount Hillaby. That is one of the best locations all tourists come to say, I want to visit. The other part of that, sir, is to do with the Rock Hall Freedom Village, where we've got plans there and have had plans for a while. The change of government at the time had caused some setbacks, but we want for that Freedom Village to come to conclusion. We want, therefore, for the plans we have in the making to be able to have tour guides as part of what we're doing, and persons traversing from the monument area over to St. Thomas Parish Church that is so many centuries old, over to Portvale Factory, come through Pori Spring, where the water is flowing incessantly. And then, of course, Fortress Hill is on the hill. It wasn't just called Fortress Hill for a joke. It is because you could stay there and that view gave you everything that's on the east, on the west coast of Barbados. And then we have the Duke's Bridge. We have the vault in the Vault Road, the Williams Vault. We have Springvale. We have Earthworks. And we had the heart of Barbados that really tears away my heart for what I saw happening from the heart of Barbados before and now what has happened as a result. Queue in the community was there on Thursday night. I could not pass to get to my house, sir, because people were so happy to be there, but it was more than that. They had market day, they had road races, running races, walking races in the past. They had locals who were given an opportunity with UNESCO to be able to form a group called Youth Path, and they got international assistance with it. All of that went dead with the change of a government again, as well as COVID kicking in. I want to know how will the Ministry of Tourism assist us in St. Thomas and by extension St. Joseph, St. Andrew, to be able to get some of those projects going, because we think that it can make a difference and add flavor to the sites and services that will be offered to our visitors, and more particularly for me, our locals, especially our senior citizens, who when they get a ride over to those particular locations, it brings back memories to them, and it gives them that hope that Barbados is still yet alive and catering for people of all ages and all walks of life, including the visitors who come with her. So generally, that is my question in a nutshell, and I would wish to hear what plans there are beyond Shaka and the other areas. And the final thing I wanted to say, chattel houses are again still on the island. And I know that there are some beautiful chattel houses. If we could get the Ministry of Tourism partnering with us for that village called Rock Hall.
Yes,
where the Freedom Villages.
Member, if you can, if you
I'm
get the
gonna
minister.
wrap up now, Mr. Speaker, sir, and you, Mr. Chairman, sir, and you know that I would talk, but I would say something meaningful. So I just wanted to say, chattel houses across St. Thomas and the island, if they can have some kind of assistance in helping to upgrade them or putting on signage on them, because that is our history that I believe should be upgraded or to be bestowed, so that our young generations can understand from whence we have come and therefore be able to be better educated as to where we are going because of the wall structures and so that now have taken over our landscape. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member, and thank you for your very insightful views as it relates to St. Thomas. You have proffered at least 6 suggestions and locations where I believe we can make some meaningful progress. I'm told that the road to Mount Hillaby was recently paved, so we've started with that in terms that we have a paved road, and I do support. One of the, in terms of how do we construct and get at least those 6 areas that you've highlighted into not only community, but to become more entrepreneurial, including the gullies that you have in that area. And I believe the time has come for the mandate of the Caves of Barbados to be fine-tuned, and therefore, when I confer with the Permanent Secretary, and obviously with the board of the Caves of Barbados, I believe that this is an opportunity for them to engineer some progress to ensure that, like for example, Mount Hillaby, that you have a welcoming visitor experience with the appropriate amenities needed for visitors and locals alike who go to that area. So I give you my word that I will mandate both from this honorable chamber, and they're here with me today, the Caves of Barbados Limited and the Barbados Tourism Marketing Inc. to one, undertake a tour with you, because you know that area better than most. One, to identify the locations, to give an assessment of what is required in those areas, and that they shall report to me within 4 weeks of today's sitting with a plan. The Marsha Aline, who leads the product side, as well as the CEO of the Caves, who is here with us today, that they should meet. And once we have that initial document, I will then convene a meeting with the board of the Caves of Barbados to ensure that they understand the pathway to us accomplishing what you've identified. It is good for us because it also helps us to build out our tourism and to also give other options as attractions. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member for St. Michael West.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon to the Honourable Minister and team. I would like to join in the numerous sentiments this morning, commending you, Honorable Minister, in a job well done in bringing back our bread and butter industry. Now, the economic impact of tourism cannot be understated here. Not only does it contribute to foreign direct investment and direct employment, but it also contributes to our wider economy in the procurement of goods and services. For context, let us go back to the dark days of COVID. And as I am not a minister, I'm a backbencher, I have a day job. And I could tell you that on that fateful Friday, when the acting Prime Minister announced that the country was shutting down, I had trucks on the road going to the supermarkets, and I was fielding calls from those supermarkets telling me, send them back. All the goods were coming back, going back into the fridge. And I could tell you that other companies, permit me, Mr. Chair, for calling some of the names, like Chickmont and these, had chickens piling up in Baiko. They had to freeze them and keep them. Nowhere to go. Supermarkets were shut. And for context, this government made the decision in the dark days of COVID to allow those cruise ships to dock off our shores. Now, let me tell you, at that time, with produce spoiling, chickens piling up in the fridges, those cruise ships acted as floating hotels and allowed companies like Chickmont, like my company, like Massey, like Bryden's, who hire people. And the people that they hire benefit from the tourism industry. And as that industry was essentially closed because of COVID, that decision allowed people to come and work for that week when times were very uncertain. I can tell you, I was on the docks working. I was very grateful. And Chair, that is what governing is about. And that is what this government is about, making decisions that benefit this country, even in its darkest days. In addition, it put Barbados on the map as a moral authority. I don't know if you guys can remember, but at that time, you could pretty much say that the people that were on those cruise ships were like lepers. The boy didn't want them. But we made the decision that Barbados was going to be the moral authority in this world, on this globe, on this planet, that we were going to take these cruise ships. Yes, it benefited us at that time in that we were able to keep people working. And I want to commend the Ministry of Tourism and the Barbados Port Inc. for playing its part in anchoring this country in its darkest hour. So, sir, we sowed the seed to reap the need. And some would say that we have somewhat of a problem, a good problem, where now, because of our overtures to the cruise industry, we now have more business than we can handle. So we got a lot of cruise ships that are now home porting in Barbados. Now this leads me to my first question. And as such, as I told you earlier, my business is procurement. So I use the port a lot. I'm probably one of the biggest customers. So, sir, I'm not sure if you're aware, but during the Christmas holidays when the cruise industry was booming, and it still is, the port would have had some issues with cruise liners and cargo ships. Now, I know that the port has a plan to expand the berths to allow for both to coexist seamlessly. Now, this is important because the Honourable Prime Minister, in seeking to position Barbados as a world-class destination for tourism and for business, we need the Bridgetown port, obviously, to be positioned such that it can handle Barbados to become a hub for the South-South, which is South America, Africa. And I want to take this opportunity to commend the minister and his team in positioning Barbados to take new risks and go out into the market to attract new tourists. But my question specifically is, can you outline the plans by the port to be able to handle the load? Because yes, we want as many cruise passengers as we can get, but we don't want to forget Barbadians and the fact that they still have to go into the supermarkets at a time when climate change is affecting agricultural produce. And if you want to position Barbados as a global trading hub, we need to have a port that can accommodate both.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member, and thank you for your kind words as well. And let me also associate the Ministry's thanks to the workers at the Bridgetown Port and indeed Immigration, Customs, and all other stakeholders. You're quite right. It is always a challenge when you have cruise ships competing for the same space. We are becoming a victim of our own success. This year, we will have about 400 plus cruise ships sailing into the Bridgetown Port. And next year, there are bigger plans. The other issue that we are faced with is that we have smaller luxury boutique-style yachts that are coming to Barbados. For example, the Ritz-Carlton will be continuing for a third season, and the Four Seasons, we should have that yacht in Barbados for the 2025 season. So as we build out the investment, like I indicated, we spent an addition of $100 million, where we're spending approximately $108 million, I believe the exact figure is, in Berth 6. We have to continually build out the port, but obviously, as you would imagine, anything associated with marine is a lot of money. And we also have a duty to protect the port's balance sheet, notwithstanding the capital outlay. Obviously, we will continue to work with some of our key partners. I was in Miami just last Tuesday, a meeting with 4 presidents of 4 cruise lines. We met with the president of Oceania, Silversea, Celebrity, and Royal Caribbean. And those companies also expressed an interest in any future investment that we would have are willing to undertake. We can submit a proposal. But we have to build out, Honourable Member, and we will endeavour to do so.
Thank you, Minister. Now, I want to add that I look forward to the day when our tourism numbers would have exceeded pre-COVID numbers. I see it as like when I was watching Sports Center the other day and LeBron exceeded 40,000 points. And I can't wait for the day to hear when we have exceeded, whatever that number is, the arrivals of 2019. But to my next question, I see that the stated strategic goals of the ministry is to work with the Statistical Service to be able to accurately and fully measure the contribution of this industry, which obviously has far-reaching effects for these shores. And to quote your words, Minister, that you want to see a pouring down of the benefits and not a trickling down. So obviously all these plans to beef up community tourism, I want to commend you on getting more active participation of alternative tours and ensuring that taxis are able to benefit fully. How do we fully measure the impact of all of these tremendous and wonderful things? Can you describe the framework, the methodology to be able to measure?
Thank you, Honourable Member. We have a research department within the BTMI. That department works very closely with the Barbados Statistical Service. We are going to continue to endeavor that work with them. We are building out additional platforms in terms of electronic collection of data and doubling with some aspects of data analytics as well. As I indicated, it is important for us as a ministry to be working with data. Take, for example, today at the Bridgetown port, we have 4 cruise ships, 8,000 passengers. This summer, we will have 24 vessel calls at the port with approximately 50,000 passengers. Next year, on the books so far, we have 22 ships coming in this summer with approximately 45,000 passengers. And part of my trip last Tuesday in the United States to meet with the cruise operators is to continuously build out our capacity so that we have a very busy summer and to return to what we are accustomed to. Post-COVID, it looks very positive, and the fact that if we can have 50,000 passengers, just using that as an example, or even today in the Bridgetown port, we have 4 vessels, 8,000 cruise passengers. We must be able to use data analytics to inform further decision making. We work very closely with the cruise ships to get information. They share information with us. That's what helps us to build out our strategies, and we will continue to do that. So I take your point. It is critical, and like I said, we will continue within the BTM and the ministry to build that architecture, choice architecture. But beyond that, we will continue to work with the Statistical Service. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. I am aware of my position in the Bahana or the chair, but I just have one last question to ask of the good minister. So it would be remiss of me if I did not go here as the chairman of Barbados Tourism and Investment, Inc. Regarding the comments made by the leader of the opposition as it pertains to the hotels and Sam Lord specifically. And Minister, I can say that when we first came into government in 2018, that Sam Lord was in the ground. And as you would know, we faced numerous challenges with COVID, ash, freak storm that caused us to shut down that site on numerous occasions. In addition to that, going through all of those challenges, we also came and saw a project that had 54 acres to 1 hotel. But the cabinet, including you, Minister, agreed to split that site in 2, where now we kept the same amount of rooms, 422 rooms for Sam Lords, but the other half of the property is earmarked for another hotel. So we got a 2-for-1. So in essence, 25 acres and 27 acres, I would believe. So in essence, that is what this government has done. So Minister, in my question, I want to know how comfortable are you with the hotel plants on island, bearing in mind Sam Lords, Indigo, and Pendry, that's going to be on the North Coast.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member. And that's why I made the point earlier to the Leader of the Opposition. It is important that you have persons who can execute. And like I referred to him, that they had Gall, lost Gall. They brought Avianca, lost it. They lost Delta, and they lost New York Run, and we brought them back. So I'm with you that you were able to take it from what would normally be called in economic language a green field. And you've now made that a productive field, earning substantial revenue for the country and, of course, much needed foreign exchange. So thank you for that. With respect to the hotel plant in Barbados, there is, and I made the comments in my opening remarks and later during questions, there is a need for not only improvement in the quality. What we're hearing from the travel trade is that we need to have hotels that reflect maybe a higher standard. As you well know, Barbados and certain segments is not necessarily an affordable destination on the coastline. It is affordable elsewhere. But we pride ourselves in having the benefit of having what we call high-end luxury properties and also affordable properties. And we have to build out our infrastructure. That therefore requires us to ensure that there's a retention or a sinking fund. It also requires the hotel companies to start looking at their competitive set and to see how best they can compete with their competitive set. That is ongoing, and I will encourage them. We have, through legislation, a number of concessions through the Tourism Development Act and through the Tourism Development Act as amended. And therefore, we have the architecture and the institutional framework for them to make the decision. Coming out of COVID, some might argue that it will take them a little more time, but the opportunity for us to reinvest in the plan is now, and I support your comments that they should get on with the business of improving their hotel plans because it will redound to them. And the one last comment I'll make, based on my former life and love for the sector, anytime you make a capital improvement in respect of a hotel plan, you will always see increasing occupancy as well as a flow through to the bottom line. In other words, you will make some good money and profit, and the workers also get to benefit. So on that point, I think that's something that we will continue to work with the accommodation sector to build up.
Thank you, Minister. Just a clarification, the second site is 17 acres for tourism development. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honourable Member for St. Michael West. We have already acknowledged the delegation from the House of Commons and the Canadian Senate, and we trust that you certainly enjoyed the discussion that you witnessed here today. Honourable Minister, you will now have your opportunity to wrap up, but before you do, I want to, through you, remind the chairman of the of the Port Authority, the CEO of Barbados Port Inc., of the promise to restore the lighthouse at Harrison Point 1 year ago, and I trust you didn't have it in the estimates then. I hope you have it in the estimates now, because if you're looking for more sites and places to take the tourists, you have a lot of tourists here, then that lighthouse must get some attention, similar to the St. Philip Lighthouse that got attention. Thank you very much, Minister. You may wrap up, or you may give the opportunity to the CEO maybe to respond.
Before I wrap up, I will ask him that he respectfully address the chairman of the House Standing Committee, Mr. John Marie.
We will refurbish the lighthouse during the coming year. Once we have the leases from the Ministry of Housing and Lands all sorted out.
Thank you very much. Honourable Minister, you may wrap up.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and thanks to all honourable members of this chamber, the various officers, and members, of course, of my ministry's team, without whom the whole exercise would not have been at all possible. During the past two sessions of debate, I think it's fair to say that they have helped and contributed to the quality of debate, and therefore they are to be commended. Mr. Chairman, you will recall that my observing the highly and competitive nature of the international tourism market. And for us, it is not about rest, it's not about sleep, it's about continued work and performance. I wish also to indicate that we've had the good fortune and blessing that we will have a locally grown Chief Executive Officer coming into the role of Chief Executive Officer effective April 1, and to be accompanied by a Chief Operating Officer on the same date. It's therefore incumbent upon me to express my gratitude to them. They are going to be undertaking a role and certainly responsibilities, which in my judgment will cause them to flourish and for the country to even enjoy greater benefits. We've laid a great platform in Barbados for the future growth of tourism, and I'm very mindful of that. And again, I say thank you to the team. I cannot help but also express my ambition to transform this sector from what people call, or the so-called acceptance of a trickle-down economic model to a pouring down and through economic model. And we are fully committed to our crucial national duty and certainly our obligation within the tourism sector. So I give all members of this chamber, as long as they continue as Minister of Tourism, International Transport, that we will endeavor to continually reposition Barbados. Our strategy has yielded significant dividends, and we will continue to do so. And with those few words, I'm obliged to you, and I beg to move the Head 27 stand part. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Wait a second.
The question is that Head 27 stand part. All honorable members in favor, say aye. Honorable members against, say no. Methinks the ayes have it. Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I beg to move that you do now report progress to His Honor the Speaker and beg leave to sit again.
The question is that I do now report progress to His Honor the Speaker and beg for leave to sit again. All honorable members in favor, say aye. Honorable members against, say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
The chairman has reported progress and requests leave to sit again. Honorable Leader of Government Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to move the suspension of the House until tomorrow, the 5th of March at 10 a.m.
Beg second.
The question is that this honorable chairman be suspended until Tuesday, the 5th day of March, 2024 at 10 a.m. in the forenoon. All those honorable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Me think the ayes have it. This honorable chairman stands suspended until tomorrow, Tuesday, 5th day of March, 2024 at 10 a.m. in the forenoon.